wants to go first? Robbie, you got one?
Sure, Clark. I actually have a question not as much about practice. I'm curious, I've noticed that it seems like it's really a team effort in recruiting so far, where, sometimes position coaches who aren't even at the position, or the geographic area for recruits are also being involved. I'm curious about your philosophy there and how you guys are approaching it.
Well, Barton's done a great job. Part of our strength as a staff is the personality of the staff. We have just some really good people, men and women that, are coming together to get behind this effort. And so that should be felt in recruiting also. And the truth is that when, families choose to send their sons here, there's going to be an army of people that are going to be around them, supporting them through the experience. And we want them to get a feel for that in the recruiting process. So it's intentional, but it's also kind of the spirit of what we're doing. I mean, this has the feel of a startup. It's like, everyone's kind of in the hallway and passing the phone around and just energized around Vanderbilt football. And so it's a very natural thing too. It's not something that we have to force.
Anybody else? Brian McKeegan, go ahead, please.
Clark, they usually say that the first practice is much different than the second one. Second one, you kind of have cleaned up some things. Guys are more on the same page. Were you seeing that in the second practice today?
Felt like early on, there were glimpses of what would look like rhythmic football, where plays were on time. Thought the defensive pursuit, the defensive effort was sustained better through the day. I did feel, just as you go through 2 hours of work, I mean, the ability to sustain and be consistent is something we have to work towards. And so where, we probably hit a high point there in the first third of practice, it may have sputtered a little bit. I'm talking more from an execution standpoint. I thought the energy and enthusiasm was there the entire day. So that's all part of this, though. I mean, we're training this team to sustain an effort. We're training this team to play longer and harder than the opponent. And, I suspect that we'll be somewhere further along as we get through 15 practices, but, that'll be a work in progress through the summer and into the fall.
Gentry.
Yeah. Hey, Clark. I'm curious, as you go into this spring, how much are you expecting to get done in terms of installation on both sides of the ball? What's kind of your goal on where to be when you get through these practices and then going into the summer?
Well, I expect to get through, a pretty healthy amount of install, particularly with the situations we're going to be addressing through the spring. I really think pretty much everything will be in, or at least have been touched on. There may be one or two things that we adapt or adjust or evolve to over the summer, and maybe one or two things that are very specific situationally that we'll hold off into the fall. And then obviously we'll get a feel as we go, if we need to pull back a little bit to make sure that we're just hitting our fundamental marks. That more to me is as important as anything, where's our fundamental base, technical base out of spring, so that we can compound on that through the summer. They'll have a lot of time on their own in the summer to work extra, and I feel like the install part of things we'll have an opportunity in the summer to work through an install. Obviously, we'll get back through the install again in fall camp, but the fundamental technical part on the field is where we need to make sure we hit our marks this spring, so that we're taking advantage of the chance to be on the field and practice. But the install will go in. Pretty much we'll have the entire package in by the end of it. Maybe a couple of the adaptations through the summer, maybe a couple of additions, and then if there's a very specific situation we have to address in fall camp, those would be the additions. It may not look like it's going to look right. It may be you're kind of learning on the move, and you get a touch point on it, but you don't go into the depth you need to go into. But you hit it once so that you can revisit in the summer and then hear it a third time in the fall. And that's what kind of compounds the learning.
From what you've seen on the field so far, has anything surprised you necessarily about your guys? What do you kind of come away from the first week saying, hey, I really like this? What do you come away saying, gosh, we really need to work on this?
My focus right now is really on our energy, enthusiasm, transitions, attention to detail. I want to make sure we don't lose the work we put into this point to start in on that foundation. As far as the team and the football, I think it's way too early to judge who we are, where we are, because everyone's learning. It's like every step, every rep. Practice 1, they were learning what the drills were we were doing. Practice 2, there was a little more comfort in that, but just trying to train them to clear the static and focus on what they have to do, again, to make sure the energy and the enthusiasm, the engagement is there, to not allow themselves to be distracted by all the other inputs. And I guess when I say that, to be more specific, we probably had our best training segments right there at the end of the winter, where when you were with this team in that strength and conditioning training, you felt that force behind their effort. You felt like they were able to really, really hone in on the things they needed to do at a high level to come out of training with a sense of accomplishment. I thought practice 1, I just sensed hesitation early. And I think a lot of that has to do with you're dealing with so many more layers now. Install, where am I going? How am I being coached? What are the fundamentals we're working on? What is my alignment? And that can slow you down. And so, we try to reset our focus today on, there's going to be so much unknown that we walk into every day. Let's make sure that we are, again, on our marks when it comes to the engagement, the enthusiasm, the energy. Because most times in college football, if that's right, if you have the right spirit, you're going to be in a good competitive position. And then, by the time we're playing, being measured against an opponent, the football will have had time to mature and to be in place. So,
Chris.
Yeah, Clark, I know this is an unfair question because you're barely into this, right? But fans want to know these things. What do you feel like you have to build on with defense, whether it's depth at a certain area or certain players you feel you can build around, or some traits those players have? But do you have any sense of what your good points are on that side of the ball?
Not yet, Chris. And listen, all questions are fair. And I understand, there's a lot for us to learn about this team. Just looking at the position numbers, certainly we have depth in some areas, and we're working to build depth in others. And, we'll introduce a complete class of freshmen in the summertime that will help in that. But I think to be fair to our team and even to the fans, right now, this is, for me, it's way more how we do things than it is who is doing them. And there have been flashes of really good competitive play. There have been flashes of, who's closing the middle of the field. And, we're in such early phases here that it'll take a little time to sort through where our strengths lie. But I'm excited to kind of have a better feel for that as we make it through spring. And then the other thing for me is, just in general, in dealing with these kind of, questions or these aspects of the program is, to be fair to our players. I mean, this is a continuum. It's a progression line. There's, we have these kind of natural breaks in the schedule, but my experience in college football has been that, no one is ever finished developing or finished growing. And so we will get through 15 practices, we'll get through our spring game, and we'll have a feel for what the trajectory is of each player. But you know, hopefully we have the best developmental system in the summer. We lean on those systems to again compound the learning, compound the fundamental development of each player. And you know, we're delivered back a team in the fall that, you know, has evolved through the work, and you want to give opportunity all anew to each guy to prove themselves all over again. So it's just you know, the team is going to be a constant work in progress, constant evolution, and to me that's what makes for a healthy organization. So we'll keep pushing that as we go.